welcome to Happy Heart on the Prairie, Episode 3, Befriending Your Fear. My name is Rebecca Houtsma, and I'm a speech-language pathologist from Normal, Illinois. And yes, there is a city called Normal, and I am a Normalite. The purpose of my vlog, Happy Heart on the Prairie, is to share my experience working on creating a happier heart for myself in the hopes that it will encourage and inspire you on your own journey to creating a happier heart for yourself. I recently saw a speech by Esther Perel, who is a world-renowned psychologist from Belgium, in which she said that sometimes when you listen in on the conversations of others, you realize listening in on others that it puts you in front of your own mirror. You find in their words the vocabulary you need to have the conversation you want to have. And it is my hope that listening into the conversations of a normal lady from Normal, Illinois will encourage you and perhaps give you some words sometimes for your own conversations with yourself. Today's episode is on befriending your fear. And to begin, I need to go back and tell you a little bit more about my story. And I told you a little bit about my story in last week's vlog episode, Opportunities. 3 years ago, I became chronically ill. It all started ostensibly when my husband and I went for a hike during March break of 2015. We were in the mountains of Tennessee, and we'd hiked about 10 miles. We went to the hotel, had a good sleep, and the next morning I woke up and I found a tick embedded in my lower abdomen, and I pulled it out, and I just decided that I would watch and see over the next week or so for a red mark or a bullseye, and I sort of forgot about it. About 3 days after the hike, I became violently ill with just complete indigestion and intestinal problems, and I thought perhaps that I had food poisoning, but I went to the doctor and it wasn't that. But still, the digestive problems persisted, and in addition to that, I became really, really tired. It was like I had a terrible case of the flu. I could barely lift my arms and legs. I couldn't do anything. It was an effort to even just sit and focus, and that was the other thing. I wasn't focusing very well. I wasn't processing very well. My anxiety had gone through the roof, and I was just really, really ill and very scared. And so, and it just didn't go away, even after a week, even after 2 weeks. So I went to see my doctor, and she couldn't find anything wrong. She referred me for all sorts of tests. I went to see other doctors, and over the next month or two, I went to see many specialists, and they could not figure out what was going on with me, and yet I was still having these problems. I was having heart palpitations, and my anxiety just increased. I couldn't figure out what was going on with me, and no one seemed to know. So it continued and continued and continued, and I barely made it through the end of that semester. I ended up going on sick leave from my job because I was so tired I couldn't work. Most days I would be laying on the couch. I'd do a little bit, whatever I could, in the morning for an hour. Usually I would try and make dinner. That was kind of the priority item, and that would be it. That would be all I had the energy to do, and I spent the rest of the day lying on the couch. And it really was like I was carrying weights in my hands and on my feet. That is how I felt. I just felt so heavy, bodily heavy is the only way I can describe it, and completely exhausted all the time. This continued for 18 months, and during that time, because I'm a speech pathologist, a therapist, I am used to researching things, finding solutions, fixing things, and so that's what I did. I spent most of my time on the computer trying to figure out what it could possibly be, going and seeing doctors, trying different therapies, and to no avail. And at about 18 months, I hit rock bottom. When I hit rock bottom, the only way I can describe it is that I just no longer had the energy to fight it anymore. Physically, mentally, and emotionally, I had nothing left in me. I had exhausted all my resources. And the only way I can describe what happened then, after 18 months of trying to fix and figure out and solve my problem, my illness, was that I surrendered. And I basically said to God and the universe, I'm done. I'm just done. And the feeling, the thought that came to me then was that I should just let go and just see what happened and let it come to me. If there was going to be a solution, let it come to me. But that I was done. And it was a really weird and interesting thought, this kind of notion of surrender. But it was after that decision, after that conversation with myself, that things started to turn around. And so we come back to this past week when I've been experiencing, once again, the fatigue. And this is the ongoing problem that I still have from my illness 18 months ago that has continued to improve. But this is sort of the last symptom that continues. And last week I was tired, and I felt a lot of fatigue. On Friday, I had a conversation with my life coach, Kirsten, who I'm working with this month. She's a good friend of mine and a colleague from Illinois State, and I decided that I wanted to book in some sessions with her because she's a very wise person. And I spoke to her we've been working on other things, but I spoke to her this Friday about my fatigue. And she said, Rebecca, I think that you have a great deal of fear surrounding this fatigue. And she said, have you ever heard the phrase, what we resist persists? She said, what I want you to do this week is I want you to just let the fatigue and tiredness be. And to just experience it, to write about it, to journal it, to separate out the physical fatigue from emotional fatigue and write what it feels like. And she said, I think that will help you. And I thought about, and so that is what I've been doing. And so the very next day, I got up and I went for a very long walk to purposefully bring on fatigue. And it worked. And I was very tired, but I met that fatigue with an intention that I was not going to judge it, that I was just going to do what she said, feel it, experience it, without any kind of judgment, and then journal about it. And do you know that for the first time, I experienced that fatigue just as fatigue, as heaviness, as tiredness, a little bit of pain. But I didn't experience any of the emotional shame and then anxiety about, okay, what if it gets worse? and just the downness, the depression of it. I didn't have any of that. Just experiencing it and letting it be without judgment allowed me to be very emotionally neutral about it. And that felt really peaceful. It was really peaceful. I didn't feel fantastic or super joyful or exuberant, but I felt totally peaceful about it. And I've never felt that way in my fatigue before. And so that was really cool. And so that is what I have been working on this week and will continue to work on. And I will let you know how that goes for me. But I want to read you the rest of this phrase, what we resist tends to persist. This is a quote by Richard Patterson, who is a happiness author. And he writes, "If it is true that what you resist persists, the opposite is true, namely that what you embrace dissolves. Negative states persist because we give them energy and importance through giving them all of our attention. When we offer no resistance, they wither and fade away. And even if they remain, that is okay too." And certainly that is what I found. I was okay with my tiredness last week, and my hope is that over time, if I continue to practice this acceptance and just letting my tiredness be when it comes without judgment, that hopefully it'll get better and that my energy will improve, and I will let you know. I send you off with a blessing for health, happiness, prosperity, and great relationships, and look forward to talking with you again next time. Goodbye.